Carlsbad High School has an ambitious journalism program that includes a daily school broadcast. Students also have had the opportunity to travel. Last September, 4 students went to a remote village in rural Alaska. KPBS Arts reporter Beth Accomondo spoke with recently retired Carlsbad High broadcast journalism teacher Doug Green, along with students Maddie Mulligan and Tava Valenti. Here's that conversation.
To begin with, Doug, I wanted to talk to you about the program at Carlsbad High School. You are recently retired from there, but explain what kind of a broadcast program they have there for the students.
It's really unique. It's a live daily broadcast, so it's very much a real-world program that airs every morning to about 3,000 students live on the campus, live on YouTube. For the last 18 years, it's been the #1 rated daily high school broadcast in the country. It's an interesting real-world experience. Kids come in the morning, and we kind of put the show together in real time that airs about an hour and a half later to a very large audience.
And we have 2 students who are currently involved in this program. So before we talk about the trip you've had, talk a little bit, Maddie, about what you actually do in the broadcast program.
Yeah, I have been in this broadcasting program for a very long time. It starts in middle school, and it's kind of like a career pathway you can take all throughout high school. So I dabbled a little bit in broadcasting in my 5th grade year, but that was just an after-school program. But the program really starts in 7th grade, and that's where I began. So this is my 6th year. I'm a senior. And as you get to the high school level, it's pretty standard, and every day you kind of do the same rundown, but with different variations. We do a lot of stuff like magic windows, and we have live reporters in the studio, and it's just such a great experience every day.
And Tava, what's this been like for you?
Broadcasting as a whole has just been an amazing experience. I joined when I was in 8th grade. I didn't have any prior experience, so first coming in, it was hard for me to get up. But eventually, like everything, you just work at it, and it's grown into a beautiful thing as it is today.
And Doug, when this program was created, what was kind of the goal or purpose that you saw for it?
It sort of just evolved over time. I personally had an interest in doing live broadcasting, and that's something that when we started 20 years ago wasn't happening on a regular basis. At the high school level, we were one of the first to broadcast live on the internet. It's the sort of class where when you imagine that they're learning how to make brutal, unforgiving deadlines, they're developing self-confidence, they're learning how to work with partners, to collaborate. So many of the students, they begin in middle school really not sure what they got themselves into, and then they can stand up, and by their senior year, they are, interviewing people in a live environment. So they develop these tremendous communication skills. So, we talk a lot about these soft skills. I think a program like broadcasting, where they're having to do it all, it's just really invaluable.
And Doug, back in 2009, you decided to take your students outside of the studio and actually brought them overseas. Explain kind of what prompted you to do that and what that experience was like.
Prior to teaching broadcasting, I was an 8th grade language arts teacher for 10 years, and one of the books that we read is Diary of Anne Frank. And I remember back in the 90s thinking, I wish there was some way to introduce students to the Holocaust. And then I had the opportunity in 2009 to take 16 students, volunteered. We flew to Munich, and we began producing what we thought was going to be a very short film that we were filming during spring break on the Holocaust. Came back, produced a very short trailer, and it quickly, this is the early days of YouTube, but it quickly gained some steam on YouTube. We were funded by the Leach-Tag Family Foundation in Carlsbad to go back and actually make a film. And why the film is still doing so well today is a story of 16 kind of regular high school students making a movie about something they did not understand themselves. So you sort of see this evolution of understanding as we went out and produced this film. 4 trips to Europe filming and multiple concentration camps, interviewing survivors here in San Diego. Definitely life-changing for those 16 students.
And Carlsbad High is continuing to take students or allow students this opportunity to go outside the classroom. And both of you, along with 2 other students, had an opportunity to go to Alaska. So, Tava, explain what this was about.
Yeah, I was really surprised that this was even an option because I've never heard of any school doing this before, sending kids to this rural town in Alaska. I like to take every opportunity that I can to go out and travel and see the world. When I first went to Alaska, or before, I was thinking that it was going to expand my understanding on like Alaska and just like the terrain and the wild. But really what it did was it expanded my understanding on the people and how genuine people are out there. And that's something that I really appreciate from the trip.
And Maddie, where did you actually go in Alaska, and what was kind of the goal of this trip?
So we went on a 2-week trip to Critic, Alaska. It is this rural town with no roads in or out. You have access to it by boat or by plane. And the point of our trip was to go teach these students in a broadcasting class at Critic, their school there. We are going to teach them how to use cameras and how to produce stories and help them enhance their broadcasting class, and so they could have like a day-to-day show or get to that point at least. And so we went there to help them with that. And along the 2 weeks, we taught students not only how to use cameras, but how to have an on-camera presence, and show them that even as nerve-wracking as it is, it becomes a lot of fun. And if you stick with it, they would have a very strong program so that they could eventually, which they will in a few months, come to STN, which is Student Television Network. It's a convention that we attend every year. And they are going to come and they are going to compete in some of the contests and really just hone in on their skills.
And Tava, I understand that you actually got to go out on a boat looking for seals?
Yes, yeah. When I first heard about the Alaska trip, one of the main things that I was really excited about is just the nature aspect of it, just the hunting and the rural side of it. And so I made it a point where I really wanted to go on this boat, because in Cot Lake, it's they do all their hunting from boats, most of their hunting. I saw these families that were really concentrated and really focused because they had to hunt something that day. They had to catch something because that's how they provide for their families.
And Doug, you are retired, but you ended up chaperoning this group. What do you see as the value of this? Why is it important for a high school to kind of invest in a program like this?
I think just a couple of things. Giving the students an opportunity to leave Carlsbad and go someplace that's a little grittier. You know, we do this in Wales and Alaska, and just sort of spread. They have a tremendous joy and appreciation for storytelling. And we have seen in Wales and now in Alaska that is contagious when you bring students in like this who are so passionate at 15, 16, 17 years old about journalism. And then in this case, to show the Yupik kids that there are stories to be told in this community, that they don't think there are stories. They've grown up, it's a small community. And just to watch that from the outside, and that was my job, was to document it, but not to get in their way. It was really something to see.
And there's actually a film about this whole adventure they had.
I stayed out of their way and let them do their thing, but in the process, to keep busy, I produced with the students a film called What I Know Now That I Didn't Know Then. Very cool experience.
And Doug, you mentioned that there have also been trips to Wales, and Maddie, you have been involved in that. Do you also help train students and kids there to work in broadcast?
So the trip to Wales had pretty much the same aspect, the same outcome goal that we had hoped for. With the Alaska trip, they both kind of went hand in hand. So when we went to Cardiff, Wales, it was also a 2-week-long trip. It was me along with 7 other students that time. And we taught a camp there because it was during the summer, so the students were not in school. So it was a voluntary camp for students to come to where we taught them how to use cameras, and most of them didn't have a background in broadcast journalism, so they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. And they learned how to become more outgoing and speak in front of a camera, as well as use the cameras to produce stories around Wales and make movie trailers. We did quite a few of those. And then towards the end of the camp, we got it all together, and we had a showing of everything that we had made. And it just turned out to be a really awesome experience where we got to teach a bunch of the students. And some of the youth groups there have their own broadcast journalism groups called the Butown Buzz. So they keep that together, and they're working hard on their shows and all of that for the students to be involved in. And even some of those students are going to be attending STN with us this year as well.
And what do you think it is about having students or young people teaching young people? It's more of a peer kind of situation. Do you think they're more responsive to it, or do they feel inspired by the fact that they're seeing people like themselves doing it? I mean, how do you feel about that kind of setup for the teaching?
I definitely think that these students honestly feel more vulnerable when they're around someone their own age because they see it working in live time, even though I have years of experience in my background. Like just showing them that if I can do it, they are more than capable to do it themselves. And it's not weird, it's not unnormal, it's very common. And they just need to get out of their comfort zone, and to have someone who they can see almost as a friend be there and be supportive of them is really what gets them to want to be involved and to work on their skills.
When it's a young person teaching another young person, you can really connect with them on a different level because, say, when you're being taught by someone who's older than you think of them in a different way. It's more of a respect thing. And when you're with kids, they really let their guard down. And you can really connect with them at a friend level and then also be teaching them at the same time. So I think that really helps them learn in a genuine way.
And do either of you have a takeaway from this trip to Alaska? Anything that really impacted you or one of the experiences that stood out?
Honestly, I really think that when I went on this trip, I was quite nervous. I was more scared to go on this trip than I was to go out of the country to the UK. But leaving this trip was probably one of the most impactful things that I've done because when I went on this trip, I learned so much about their culture, more than any textbook could have taught me. Like just experiencing it for 2 weeks and seeing how these kids are more than welcoming. They're so loving and they are just so proud of where they come from. It's really empowering. And to see their respect for their elders, just every aspect of their day-to-day life may just seem like something boring to one person, but to them it is just like so much more than that. And like they really are grateful for the life that they have. And it just made me so much more grateful for what I have, and like showed me that this is really what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, this trip has definitely taught me a lot of gratitude because when you go out there and you see these kids, they don't have as much as kids in around here would have. So they, over their life, they learn a lot about appreciating for what they have. Everything that they have, they work for. So I think that being out there and living with them for a little bit and just talking to them, and over those 2 weeks, we really connected a lot. We were with them almost the entire day, every single day out of those 2 weeks. So we made a lot of connections, and I still talk to those kids. We still connect with them over online and social media because they have access to social media. So yeah, I made a lot more friendships, and it just taught me a lot about just the genuineness of people, especially from other cultures, because those kids, they just get taught a lot about just appreciating what you have and working for what you have.
And do either of you plan to go into journalism or broadcast?
Yeah, so I'm currently a senior in high school, and I have applied to multiple colleges for a broadcast journalism major. I'm so passionate about it, and not only have I learned so much over the past 6 years in VMS TV and CHSTV, but these 2 trips that I've taken alone have taught me a tremendous amount about my ability and my skills and what I can bring to the table and teach these students, and it has just really, really helped me.
I'm still looking at all of my options currently, but definitely broadcasting is very high up there in terms of my future because broadcasting has just given me so many things over these past years, and it's even allowed me to go all the way to Alaska, and I'm still 16 years old, and it's even given me that just at a high school level.
All right. Well, I want to thank you all very much for coming in and speaking with me, and the 2 additional students who aren't here. I don't know if you want to mention who they are.
We have Jade and Cora in the control room.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you.
That was Beth Accomondo speaking with retired Carlsbad High School teacher Doug Green, along with students Maddie Mulligan and Tava Valenti. You can find a video about their trip to Alaska on Beth's Cinema Junkie blog at kpbs.org/cinemajunkie.